The grand hall of Velthara gleamed under the twin suns, polished to a mirror shine that reflected the assembled delegates from dozens of star systems. Every species in the Galactic Alliance had come, their ships orbiting in perfect formation above the capital city. Flags, banners, and symbols of war and peace alike decorated the immense hall. This was a place of diplomacy, yet beneath the calm surface, tension simmered. Captain Daniel Reeve walked slowly down the central aisle. His armor, black and scarred from countless battles, clanged softly with each step. The plates were reinforced with rare alloys, etched with symbols of his victories and the names of fallen comrades. To any alien in the room, it would have looked bulky, primitive, and unwieldy. The humans were new to this council. Known only through tales of chaos and stubborn survival, they had earned the grudging respect of some, but the ridicule of many. Now Daniel was here, the first human ever formally invited to a high-level war summit, and he carried the weight of humanity's reputation with every step. The delegates whispered among themselves, voices like wind through dry leaves. Tall Velthari officers tilted their heads, their many eyes scrutinizing him. He ignored them. His expression, set in calm determination, gave away nothing. At the far end of the hall stood Princess General Lysara, the Velthari commander known across a dozen systems for her unmatched skill in strategy and combat. Her armor was sleek, almost ceremonial, polished until it reflected the lights above like liquid silver. She noticed Reeve the moment he entered. A slow, mocking smile spread across her face. "So," she said, her voice dripping with contempt, "this is the ape the Alliance invited. The creature that wears metal as if it can hide the weakness beneath." Laughter erupted from nearby delegates. Some laughed out of genuine amusement, others out of nervousness at the unprecedented sight. No human had ever appeared at their summit before, and here he was, stepping forward in what they assumed was protective weakness. Reeve said nothing. His eyes swept across the hall, calm, unblinking. The whispers died slowly. Even Lysara's own subordinates, trained to be proud and fearless, hesitated. Something in the human's posture made them uneasy. He did not shrink, did not flinch, did not beg for acceptance. He simply walked as if the room itself could not touch him. "You wear armor," Lysara continued, her voice sharp like a blade, "because you cannot stand on your own. Tell me, human, does it hide your fear? Your frailty?" The crowd chuckled again, and Reeve stopped at the center of the hall. He did not raise his voice. He did not speak. He simply looked at her. The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. Then a Velthari diplomat whispered to a colleague, "Why does he not respond? Does he not hear?" But the answer was simple. He was listening. He had always listened. Humans survived not because they rushed blindly into battle, but because they observed, measured, and waited. Every moment in their lives trained them for this, a battlefield of minds as well as bodies. Lysara's laughter faltered. She tilted her head, studying him with the sharp intelligence of a predator. Something about him was different. She had faced dozens of species in war, yet never a human. There was a stillness in him, an absence of fear that disturbed her. The session began. Counselors from multiple worlds presented the threat of the Kartek swarm, a deadly alien species that consumed everything in its path. Their numbers were vast, their tactics devastating. Entire fleets had been lost in a single engagement, and the survivors whispered that the Kartek did not merely kill, they erased. Planets disappeared, leaving nothing behind but silence. Lysara turned to Reeve, a smirk still lingering. "And what does your kind do, human?" "Stand behind this armor, hoping it will save you when the galaxy burns." Reeve finally spoke, his voice calm, low, but carrying across the hall. "We do not hope. We endure." A few delegates blinked in surprise. Lysara's eyes narrowed. "Endure?" she repeated. "You call that strength?" He said nothing more. He stepped forward, closer to the assembly, letting the silence hang like a challenge. The words themselves were enough to draw attention. Humans, she realized, did not boast. They demonstrated. They survived. Another counselor, a tall, insectoid creature from the planet Zirin, hissed under his breath. "Primitive, arrogant, he thinks silence is victory." But Reeve's gaze met theirs all the same, steady and unwavering. The insectoid flinched. The session continued, but every time Lysara glanced at the human, her curiosity grew. She had expected fear, hesitation, and weakness. Instead, she saw purpose. Something alien, yes, but undeniable. There was a calm certainty in his movements, the way he shifted his weight slightly, the way his hands rested lightly near his side. Every motion spoke of discipline, of experience. By midday, the summit had moved on to tactics and deployment plans. Reeve observed quietly, asking questions only when necessary, speaking only when facts demanded it. The alien delegates noticed that when he did speak, his words were precise and deliberate, lacking any unnecessary flourish. He spoke as someone who had survived countless battles and expected to survive countless more. Lysara could not look away. She had never studied a species like this before. The human's armor was dented, scratched, and darkened by countless wars, yet the figure beneath it moved with a grace that no one expected. Every scar told a story, every mark a memory, and then it happened. A misstep from one of the Velthari subcommanders caused a minor disruption in the Council's holographic display. Lysara smirked and waved a hand dismissively, expecting to make a joke at the human's expense. "Watch carefully, Council," she said loudly, so all could hear. "Observe the ape as it reacts to a trivial distraction. Surely it cannot endure even this simple embarrassment." The hall chuckled. Cameras and observers trained on Reeve, waiting for the expected stumble. But he did not stumble. He did not falter. He did not blink in panic. He merely adjusted a small panel on his wrist, restoring the holographic display without looking at it directly. The motion was simple, almost imperceptible, but elegant, efficient, flawless. The hall went quieter. A few alien eyes widened. Whispers rippled like wind through the ranks. How did he do that? Lysara's laughter faltered. She leaned forward, curious and unsettled. She had mocked him, expecting fear, incompetence, weakness. Instead, she had seen control, discipline, a power she could not yet measure. Reeve returned his gaze to her, silent, unyielding. And in that moment, Lysara understood something fundamental. He was not the same as the other creatures in the hall. He was different. Dangerous, yes, but in a way that no weapon could measure. The session ended with a temporary truce to discuss joint defensive measures. Delegates left the hall in whispered conversation, glancing back at the human who had moved among predators and left them unnerved. Lysara lingered. She approached him as the hall emptied, her curiosity overtaking her pride. "Captain Reeve," she said carefully, "your people—" "They endure, you say?" He looked at her, expression unreadable, eyes steady. "Yes," he replied simply. "We endure because we must. Survival is the only test worth passing." Lysara studied him in silence. She had faced countless warriors, taught entire generations of soldiers. Yet this human left her unsettled. There was a raw, unspoken history behind his armor, behind the calm. She sensed the truth. The stories hidden beneath those blackened plates were not just of war, but of endurance beyond imagining. For the first time, the Velthari Princess General felt something unfamiliar. Respect tempered with fear. Outside the hall, the twin suns shone brightly over Velthara. Ships from dozens of worlds glinted in orbit, but the galaxy itself seemed to pause for a single moment, as if acknowledging the arrival of a species it had underestimated. The hum of the Grand Hall had barely faded when Lysara made her decision. She would challenge the human Captain Daniel Reeve to a duel, not out of malice alone, but out of a need to understand. The way he carried himself, the calm in his eyes, and the disciplined strength he radiated unsettled her in a way no other warrior ever had. "Bring him to the arena," she commanded her aides, her voice sharp, confident. Her sleek armor reflected the light, giving her the appearance of a predator poised to strike. The hall erupted in whispers. Aliens had never seen such a thing. A princess general publicly issuing a challenge to a single human. Reeve, unaware of the orders until they reached him, gave a slight nod. He did not flinch, nor did he raise his voice. To him it was another test, another situation where survival demanded focus and calm. Humans had always faced impossible odds. A duel in front of dozens of alien species was just another obstacle. The arena was located beneath the summit, a vast circular chamber lined with energy barriers. Above, viewing platforms allowed council members to watch. Weapons and combat systems could be activated if the duel escalated, though everyone hoped it would remain a show of skill and honor rather than blood. Lysara stepped onto the platform, her every movement radiating confidence. Her armor gleamed, almost weightless compared to the heavy, battle-worn plates that Reeve wore. She gestured for him to face her. The audience fell silent. "You wear that metal as if it makes you strong," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "I will see if your skin beneath it can withstand true combat." Reeves' expression did not change. He adjusted a piece of his gauntlet and said softly, "Strength is not what hides beneath armor. It is what endures despite it." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Whispers rippled across the crowd. Some of the smaller species leaned closer to see the human, trying to gauge the meaning behind the calm confidence. Lysara's smirk widened. "Then let us see it." With a flick of her wrist, the duel began. She moved first, launching a series of fast, precise strikes. Her weapons were extensions of her body, controlled with the skill of a master strategist. Every motion was elegant, fluid, and deadly. Reeve did not attack. He did not dodge wildly. He moved like water, shifting his weight, letting his armor absorb and deflect her strikes. Each impact echoed through the chamber, a metallic symphony that spoke of countless battles survived. The audience leaned forward, eyes wide. They had expected a quick humiliation, but instead they saw the human stand firm. His armor, scarred and battered, shifted perfectly with his body. Every hit was absorbed, every strike deflected without a wasted movement. Lysara's frustration grew. This was not supposed to happen. No human could withstand even a fraction of her skill, and yet this one did. "You only block," she said, circling him. "Where is your counterattack? Are you afraid?" Reeve tilted his head slightly, his visor reflecting her image for a brief moment. "Fear is for those who have not endured," he replied. The words, so calm and deliberate, struck more deeply than any blade could. Lysara stopped mid-strike, her curiosity turning into a simmering realization. She was facing a warrior unlike any she had ever met. She increased her speed, attacking from angles most would consider impossible. Her strikes became a blur, yet Reeve remained in control. He shifted his weight, absorbing blows that could have shattered bones in any other species. The armor seemed to flow with him, not against him, as if it were part of his body. The crowd gasped. Some council members whispered that humans were primitive, but seeing him now, their doubt wavered. There was a terrifying elegance in his defense, not just survival but mastery. Lysara, feeling the first genuine tension in decades, made a decision. She would force him to show himself, to reveal the truth beneath the armor. With a sharp command, she paused mid-strike, stepping back. "Remove it," she said, pointing at his armor. "Let us see if your flesh can withstand what your metal does not hide." The chamber went silent. Whispers spread like wildfire. Delegates leaned forward, some in disbelief, others in horror. Humans never removed armor in combat. To do so was almost unthinkable, a gesture of supreme confidence, or reckless foolishness. Reeves' expression remained unchanged. Slowly, deliberately, he began to release the clasps, the reinforced plates sliding away with a series of soft metallic clicks. The audience held its breath. Piece by piece, the armor came off, revealing not the muscular alien physique many expected, but a human body scarred and marked from countless battles. Cuts, burns, and bruises crisscrossed his skin. His hands bore the permanent reminders of injuries survived. The hall went utterly silent. Even the smallest alien whispers died in the sudden weight of realization. Lysara blinked. The human's eyes, deep and unyielding, met hers. There was no arrogance, no showmanship, only the raw, unfiltered truth of a being who had endured more than she could imagine. "You wear that metal because it contains what the world has done to you," she said softly, almost to herself. He nodded slightly. "Yes, and because the world will try to kill those around me if I do not wear it. My armor protects more than myself." The words hung in the chamber like a storm cloud. The counselors who had mocked him moments ago now stared in awe. The human was not merely a warrior. He was a survivor, a protector, a living testament to the strength of his species. Lysara's own pride shifted. She had expected an inferior opponent, a curiosity to humiliate and dismiss. Instead, she faced someone who had endured unimaginable hardship, whose strength was not measured in speed or grace, but in the unyielding will to survive. She took a deep breath and resumed the duel. This time, however, it was different. She did not attack with mockery. Her strikes were precise, testing, probing, trying to understand the limits of this human's endurance. Reeve moved with a fluidity that contradicted his scars. Each dodge, each step, each minor counterattack revealed a depth of skill forged in the harshest conditions. He did not seek glory, only survival. He did not fight to dominate, only to endure. For the first time, Lysara felt something unfamiliar: respect and fear. The duel continued, and the human's endurance became undeniable. Every strike Lysara attempted was met with perfect timing. Every feint was countered with subtle, disciplined movement. She realized that she was learning something from him, something that could not be taught, only earned through relentless trials. Minutes passed, then hours, or at least it felt that way. The hall watched silently as the human stood, unyielding, refusing to falter, and when he finally took a step forward, he did so not to attack, but to signal the end of the demonstration. "Enough," he said calmly. "I am not here to fight for pride. I am here to survive, and to ensure others do as well." The audience exhaled. Lysara's armor, her expression, even her posture shifted. She had expected a human to break, to stumble, to retreat. Instead, she saw something more terrifying than any weapon: unshakable resolve. The council erupted in murmurs. Some species whispered in awe, others in fear. The human's reputation as unpredictable, unstoppable survivors was no longer just a story. It was reality. Lysara stepped back, lowering her weapon. "You are unlike anything I expected," she admitted. "Your strength is not in your armor, human. It is in you," Reeve nodded. "The armor is only a tool. The strength is what endures beneath it." The duel ended, but its echoes would remain. Every counselor, every species, every observer had seen the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. They survived where others failed. They endured where others crumbled. And as the sun set over Velthara, casting long shadows across the arena, one lesson became clear. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. And that mistake could be fatal. Reeve returned to his armor quietly, reassembling it with methodical care. Lysara watched, her curiosity now fully ignited. She had expected ridicule, but instead she found respect, and perhaps a hint of fear. The Kartek swarm still approached. The war still loomed, and the galaxy had just witnessed the beginning of humanity's demonstration. Not through conquest, not through force, but through sheer, unyielding endurance. The sun dipped below the horizon of Velthara, casting the grand hall into deep shadows. The summit had ended, but the echoes of the duel lingered. Delegates whispered as they departed, their earlier mockery replaced by cautious curiosity, even awe. Every species present had witnessed the human captain stand unyielding, not because of his armor, but because of his endurance and discipline. Lysara remained, her silver armor gleaming faintly in the dim light. She had expected to humiliate the human. Instead, she had discovered something she could not define, a strength unlike anything she had encountered. She found herself moving closer to the private chamber where Reeve had returned to inspect his damaged armor. "Captain Reeve," she called softly, almost hesitantly. He looked up, calm and collected, though the faintest hint of exhaustion tugged at the corners of his eyes. "Princess General Lysara," he replied, nodding in greeting. "I did not expect a private visit. I must understand," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Your species, your endurance, it is unlike anything I have seen. Tell me why you wear that armor, and why it protects more than just your body." Reeve stood slowly, his movements deliberate. He gestured for her to sit across from him. "You wish to understand humans," he said. "Then listen carefully. The armor you mock is not a shield for weakness. It is a shield for what has been endured, and for what will be endured." He paused, eyes distant as if recalling memories long buried. "My armor carries the scars of a world that would have broken anyone else. Earth is not kind. Storms can tear a city apart. Predators hunt without mercy. Disease strikes without warning. And humans." He smiled faintly, though there was no humor in it. "We survive, not because we are strong, not because we are fast, but because we endure." Lysara listened, captivated. She had faced centuries of combat, trained entire generations of soldiers, yet she had never heard a story like this. Reeve continued, his voice calm but unwavering. "There was a place called Titan Base," he said, "a remote human colony on a planet hostile to life. One night we were attacked. Entire squads were wiped out in hours. I survived, but I saw friends die, friends who were stronger, faster, smarter than me. My armor. It carries pieces of them, reminders of what we endured together. Every scratch, every dent is a story of survival, of endurance against odds no one else could face." Lysara's eyes widened. She had mocked the armor, expected it to hide frailty. Instead, it held memory, experience, and resilience beyond her understanding. Her own pride, her carefully honed confidence, wavered. "You survive because you have no choice," she said softly, almost to herself. "Not because you are invincible, but because you refuse to fail when others depend on you." Reeve nodded. "Exactly. The armor is only a tool. It cannot carry the will of the wearer. Humans endure because we must, and because those who rely on us cannot be allowed to fall." Lysara leaned back, her mind racing. The Kartek swarm was approaching, faster than any intelligence had predicted. The Alliance fleets were vast, but conventional tactics had failed. Entire systems had fallen in days. She realized now that she had underestimated not just the humans, but the sheer unpredictability of their approach to war. "I have faced warriors who fought for glory," Lysara admitted. "But you fight for survival, for others, for something beyond yourself. It is terrifying and yet inspiring." Reeve's expression softened, though his eyes remained steady. "That is what humanity does. We fight, we endure, and we protect. That is why our armor is more than metal. It carries the past, shields the present, and prepares us for the battles to come." Before Lysara could respond, alarms blared across Velthara. Red warning lights flooded the chamber. The Kartek swarm had arrived in orbit. A massive fleet of insectoid ships, black and jagged, moved with terrifying precision. The sensors picked up thousands of vessels, each one larger and faster than any Alliance ship. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates rushed to their stations, commanders barked orders, and the ground shook as defensive platforms powered up. Lysara and Reeve moved to the command center overlooking the city and the orbiting fleet. "Captain," Lysara said, her voice sharp, "the swarm is larger than we feared. Our fleets alone will not hold them. You fought in worse conditions, did you not?" Reeve nodded, already analyzing the incoming threat on the holographic display. "Yes, and the principle is the same. Survival requires adaptation, unity, and decisive action. Fear is a luxury we cannot afford." Lysara studied him, her respect deepening. She realized the humans were not merely soldiers. They were strategists in the rawest sense. Every movement, every choice was calculated, honed by experience far beyond the galaxy's imagination. "Then lead us," she said. "Show us how humans fight when the odds are impossible." Reeve did not hesitate. "I will, Princess General. But understand this, we do not fight for victory alone. We fight to survive and to ensure others survive with us. That is the difference." The first wave of Kartek ships entered the planet's orbit. Energy beams lanced from their vessels, striking defensive satellites with precision. Explosions lit the sky, fires spreading across Velthara's surface. Civilians fled, soldiers rallied, and the Alliance fleet scrambled to respond. Reeve moved among the command posts, issuing orders with clarity and calm that cut through the chaos. His human squad, though small compared to the alien fleets, moved with efficiency and coordination that stunned observers. Shields were reinforced, attack vectors optimized, and evacuation routes secured. Every action demonstrated an understanding of survival that went beyond the tactical. It was instinctual, honed through generations of humanity's struggle against impossible odds. Lysara followed, observing him in awe. She realized that the duel had been only a glimpse, a small window into the human capacity for endurance and strategy. The real demonstration was now, in the crucible of battle. The Kartek swarm descended, unleashing ground forces across Velthara. The city's defenders were overwhelmed in some areas, but Reeve led small counterattacks that disrupted the enemy's formations. His human squad moved like a single organism, covering each other's weaknesses, exploiting the smallest gaps, and surviving strikes that would have killed most alien species outright. Lysara saw the truth now. Humans did not rely solely on strength or speed. They relied on ingenuity, endurance, and relentless determination. Their armor was not a crutch. It was a canvas of survival, each scratch a testament to battles fought and won against impossible odds. Hours passed. The Kartek forces pushed relentlessly, but Reeve's leadership kept key areas secure. Civilians were evacuated, defensive positions reinforced, and the Alliance fleet gained time to regroup. Every alien soldier who witnessed his tactics was struck by the humans' methodical efficiency. Lysara finally spoke, voice tight with awe. "Captain, I underestimated your species. I see now that your endurance is not just physical. It is mental, emotional, and strategic. You are unlike any creature I have ever encountered. Reeves' eyes scanned the battlefield, calm and calculating. That is what humans do, Princess. We survive, we endure, and when necessary, we protect those who cannot survive without us. The Kartek, though fearsome, were being slowed, delayed, disrupted. The galaxy had assumed humans were insignificant, easily dismissed. Now it became clear that underestimating them was a grave mistake. As night fell over Velthara, the city still stood. Fires burned, alarms blared, and the Kartek swarm had not yet been defeated. But the defenders held, led by a human who had endured what no alien could imagine, and who had taught them that survival was not about fear or pride or glory, but about unyielding endurance. Lysara stood beside him, her mind racing. She had mocked him in the hall, dismissed him as weak, but now she understood the truth. Humans were not merely soldiers. They were survivors, warriors shaped by death and hardship, beings who could endure what the galaxy thought impossible. Velthara burned under the fiery light of countless Kartek warships. Explosions rattled the streets and scorched the plains surrounding the city, sending plumes of smoke into the twin suns' fading rays. The screams of the wounded mixed with the hum of laser fire and the roar of engines. The city's defenders were stretched to their limits, and yet in the chaos, Captain Daniel Reeve moved with calm precision, his human squad following like extensions of his mind. Lysara watched from a command platform, her silver armor reflecting the blood-red sky. She had never seen a battlefield like this. Alien soldiers fought with skill and bravery, but panic was spreading. The Kartek were relentless, swarming with a speed and coordination that few species could match. Entire units fell in seconds, their weapons torn apart by the black, chitinous shells of the swarm. Reeve did not panic. He did not shout. Every command he issued was calm, precise, and effective.
Squad Alpha, flank the eastern approach.
Use the debris for cover. Squad Beta, support from the rooftops. Coordinate fire with Alpha. Keep civilians clear of the zone. Maintain discipline. Survival depends on unity, not panic. The aliens nearby, commanders and soldiers alike, stared in awe. None had ever seen a human lead in this way. It was not just courage. It was intelligence, foresight, and an instinct honed by generations of survival against impossible odds. Lysara's curiosity and respect had grown into fascination. She realized the humans were not just soldiers. They were strategists and survivors in the purest sense. Their armor was not a tool of pride, but a vessel of endurance, carrying scars and lessons from battles she could not imagine. The Kartek advanced in waves, landing massive ground units that tore through barriers and demolished defensive positions. Reeves' squad met them head-on, using unconventional tactics that confused the aliens. Mines were placed in unexpected areas, debris became traps, and every movement was coordinated with astonishing precision. One alien soldier whispered to another, voice trembling, "How does he move so calmly?" "He cannot be human. No human could survive like this." Reeve heard nothing. His focus was absolute, every sense tuned to the battlefield. A massive Kartek walker stomped toward the city center, crushing buildings and soldiers alike. Lysara's elite units prepared to engage, but Reeve raised a hand. "Let me handle this," he said. His voice carried authority, and even seasoned alien commanders obeyed. He moved forward, lighter than his heavy armor suggested, and with his squad covering him reached the walker's vulnerable joints. With precise strikes and explosives, the massive machine collapsed in a shower of sparks and debris. The crowd of defenders erupted in cheers, but Reeve remained calm, scanning for the next threat. Lysara realized something critical. Humans did not rely on brute force alone. They exploited weaknesses, adapted instantly, and survived by anticipating what others could not. Their minds were as lethal as their bodies. Hours passed. Kartek reinforcements continued to land, but Reeves' human squads became the center of the Alliance's defense. They moved with uncanny coordination, covering gaps, rescuing civilians, and neutralizing threats that had overwhelmed other species. Alien commanders began to follow his tactics, learning to fight with precision rather than panic. At one point, Reeves spotted a Kartek strike team attempting to bypass the city's defenses and flank a residential sector. Without hesitation, he led a small team through narrow alleys, using the city's destruction to mask their approach. They struck silently, dismantling the enemy unit with minimal casualties. Lysera, watching from above, could not hide her astonishment. "You teach without words," she said aloud, almost to herself. "Humans fight not just to survive, but to show others how to endure as well." Reeve returned to her side briefly. "Adaptation is key. Survival depends on coordination, discipline, and understanding your enemy. Panic only multiplies losses." Lysera nodded, understanding for the first time that this human's methods were not brute force. They were the product of an entire species' evolution through hardship. Every human soldier fought with the knowledge that survival was never guaranteed. But that failure was unacceptable. As night fully fell over Velthara, the city's lights flickered under constant bombardment. Yet Reeve's presence was a beacon. His squad cleared pathways for retreating civilians, reinforced failing barricades, and led counterattacks that reclaimed strategic positions. Every alien soldier who witnessed it was struck by awe. Humans were not just resilient. They were unstoppable when united under a single mind. The Kartek adjusted their strategy, bringing in massive air units to crush defenders from above. Reeve assessed the new threat instantly, reorganizing his teams and coordinating with Lysera's fleet. Mines were repositioned, anti-air turrets redirected, and squad formations adapted in real time. A massive Kartek wing swooped down, energy beams cutting through buildings and soldiers alike. Reeve's squad scattered strategically, drawing the attackers into crossfire zones. Turrets and alien units he had positioned opened fire in perfect synchronization. One by one, the Kartek fighters fell, their numbers dwindling faster than expected. Lysera could not believe her eyes. Entire waves of attackers had been neutralized not by overwhelming firepower, but by planning, coordination, and adaptability. Humans had turned the city itself into a weapon. The night continued, each wave of Kartek more desperate and more ferocious than the last. Reeve's human squads moved like shadows, striking where needed, defending where required, and always surviving. Alien units began to mimic their methods, learning to coordinate in ways they had never practiced before. At one point, Lysera stood beside Reeve as a massive Kartek siegewalker approached the city center. "We cannot hold it," she said, doubt creeping into her voice. Reeve's gaze was steady. "We can, Princess. Follow my lead. Focus on survival. Then strike where it matters most." He led a small strike team into the streets, dodging energy blasts and debris. Using explosives, precise strikes, and coordinated movements, they disabled the walker's legs, forcing it to collapse in a shower of sparks and smoke. The alien soldiers watching learned instantly. Humans did not fear impossible odds. They mastered them. By dawn, the battlefield had changed. The Kartek had been slowed, forced to retreat, and many of their units destroyed. Velthara had survived, battered and scarred, but standing. Humans had not only defended the city, they had taught the Alliance how to fight together, combining strategy, endurance, and precision. Lysera surveyed the city from above, her silver armor scratched and scorched. She turned to Reeve. "I mocked you," she admitted. "I thought your armor was a symbol of weakness. But it is more than that. It is a symbol of survival, of endurance, and of humanity." Reeve's expression remained calm, though a faint smile touched his lips. "The armor is just metal. It is the human within it that endures, that survives, that protects. The victory came at a cost. Buildings were destroyed, soldiers were wounded, and the city bore the scars of battle. Yet the Kartek had learned a valuable lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated. They fought not for pride, but for survival. And in doing so, they inspired all who stood beside them." The council convened again in Velthara's war room. Delegates whispered in reverence, some in fear. Every species present had witnessed the humans' methods, calm under fire, precise in strategy, relentless in endurance. Lysera spoke first. "The humans have shown us something our fleets and our tactics could not. They have survived when others would have fallen. They have endured when all seemed lost. Captain Reeve, your species is unlike any other." Reeve bowed slightly. "We are simply survivors, Princess. Survival is all we know. Endurance is all we teach." The galaxy had changed that night. Velthara survived, not because of technology alone, not because of numbers, but because of the humans' unyielding will, discipline, and strategy. Other species had fought bravely, but humans had led. Humans had inspired. Lysera finally understood the truth. Humans were not merely a species to be measured by strength or skill. They were a force of endurance, a living example of what survival truly meant. Their armor was not a crutch. It was a story, a symbol, and a weapon of experience. The battlefield of Velthara lay in ruin. Fires smoldered among the shattered buildings, smoke and ash drifting across the crimson-lit sky. The Kartek had been pushed back, their assault delayed but not yet defeated. The city's defenders moved cautiously among the rubble, tending to the wounded and reinforcing what defenses remained. Captain Daniel Reeves stood at the center of the city, his armor battered and scorched but his stance unwavering. Around him, his squad moved methodically, securing streets, rescuing civilians, and coordinating with alien forces. He was calm, focused, a pillar of endurance in a storm of chaos. Lysara approached, her silver armor scratched and dulled by the night's battles. She had watched him all through the engagement, observing how every human under his command moved, fought, and survived. She had expected a display of raw strength, but what she witnessed was something far more terrifying and inspiring, a mastery of survival itself. "You have changed the course of this battle," she said, voice quiet, reverent. "I mocked you. I thought your armor hid weakness, but it hides what is truly powerful: humanity." Reeves' expression remained calm, though the faintest hint of a smile appeared. "The armor does not define us, Princess. It is a tool, a reminder of the battles we have survived. True strength lies in what endures inside." The council of alien delegates arrived, their faces pale and their eyes wide. They had witnessed the humans' methods firsthand, calm, precise, and unyielding, turning impossible odds into victories. They whispered among themselves, trying to grasp what they had seen. Entire fleets had faltered against the Kartek before. Humans had shown them how to fight in the face of annihilation. One of the counselors, a tall insectoid commander, stepped forward. "We underestimated you," he admitted, voice trembling. "Your species, it is unlike any we have known. You survive where others fall. You endure where others perish." Reeve nodded, scanning the horizon. "Survival is all humans know. We endure, we adapt, and we protect. That is all we have ever done and all we will continue to do." Lysara moved beside him. She gestured toward the council and said quietly, almost to herself, "The galaxy feared humans. They thought you weak, primitive, disposable. They were wrong. Terribly wrong." The human soldiers continued their work, clearing debris, securing the wounded, and reorganizing defenses. Their efficiency and calm were unmatched. The alien commanders who had once mocked them now took careful notes, realizing that survival required more than numbers or weapons. It required discipline, unity, and the unrelenting will to endure. As the sun rose over the shattered city, the Kartek retreated, their forces disrupted and their morale broken. They had underestimated humans, the species that survived impossible worlds, that endured the unimaginable, and that could turn fear into strength. The Grand Hall of Velthara was prepared for a ceremony, though none of the delegates expected what would happen. Reeve entered, armor repaired but still showing the scars of battle. Lysara, alongside the council, awaited him. The hall had been the site of mockery just days ago, but now it would witness recognition, awe, and a deep, reluctant respect. Lysara spoke first. "Captain Daniel Reeve, you and your people have changed our understanding of war, survival, and courage. You have not only defended this city, but taught us how to endure. Your strength does not lie in your armor, but in what endures beneath it." The hall was silent. Every eye turned to the human, every species aware of what had happened. They had seen the battlefield. They had seen the impossible made achievable. And they understood finally that humanity was a force unlike any other. Reeve slowly removed his helmet, revealing the scars and burns that marked his body. The hall went silent, the weight of understanding settling over every alien present. The same eyes that had mocked him days before now stared in awe. There was no derision, no doubt, only acknowledgement. "You see these scars?" Reeve said, voice steady, carrying across the chamber. "Each one tells a story. Of loss, of endurance, of survival. This is what humans are. We endure because we must. We protect because we cannot do otherwise. And when the galaxy thinks we are weak, we prove them wrong." A murmur ran through the hall. For the first time, aliens truly understood the essence of human strength. It was not speed, not numbers, not raw power. It was the will to survive, to endure, to protect against impossible odds. Lysara stepped forward. She knelt briefly before him, a gesture of respect unprecedented among her species. You fought not for glory but for survival, not for pride but to protect others. That is true strength. That is humanity. Reeve lowered his head slightly but did not bow. Respect was not earned through submission, he thought. It was earned through action, endurance, and unyielding resolve. The council honored the humans in silence. No words could fully capture what they had witnessed. They had underestimated humanity, and in doing so, they had seen the galaxy's harshest truth. Humans were not to be counted out, mocked or measured by conventional standards. Outside, Velthara was scarred but alive. Citizens slowly emerged from shelters, survivors of the Kartek attack. Human squads helped evacuate the wounded and restore order. Alien soldiers who had once doubted them now followed their lead, adopting their tactics and learning from their endurance. Lysara remained beside Reeve, her mind reflecting on the events of the past days. She had mocked him. She had expected a weak human, dependent on armor and technology. Instead, she had discovered a being whose will, endurance, and intelligence could turn the tide of war. She realized something profound. Humans were not merely warriors. They were legends in the making, shaped by survival itself. The council convened one last time in the Grand Hall, now a place of acknowledgement rather than mockery. Lysara addressed the assembly. Let it be known throughout the galaxy, she said, her voice steady, that humans are not to be underestimated. They endure where others falter. They protect where others flee. And they survive where the impossible becomes reality. The galaxy owes them respect. Applause and murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Humans had earned not just recognition but reverence. And yet, for Reeve and his kind, there was no pride, no boast. They simply did what humans always did. Survived, endured, and ensured others survived with them. A young Velthari officer approached Reeve. Captain, how do you endure so much? How do you survive when the odds are impossible? Reeve's gaze swept the hall, calm and unwavering. We endure because we have no choice. We survive because others depend on us. That is what it means to be human. The officer nodded slowly, understanding dawning. Humans had endured worlds, battles, and horrors beyond imagination. Their armor, their scars, their discipline, all were symbols of a species shaped not by privilege, but by survival itself. Lysara, watching him, realized that humans would not just participate in the galaxy. They would reshape it through endurance, courage, and the simple, terrifying truth of their will. As the sun rose fully over Velthara, its light illuminated the scars of battle. The city had survived. The Kartek had been repelled, if only temporarily, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would not forget. Humans were not merely survivors. They were legends forged in the harshest fires, warriors capable of endurance beyond any species' imagination. The hall remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly the delegates rose and bowed, some in formal salute, others in quiet awe. Lysara stepped forward once more, placing a hand lightly on Reeve's shoulder. You have taught us much, human, she said softly. Not just how to fight, but how to endure. The galaxy will remember this day. Reeve looked around at the gathered assembly. He did not speak of glory or victory or dominance. He only said, the galaxy will survive because humans endure. That is all that matters. For the first time, every alien in that hall understood a simple truth. Humans were not to be mocked, not to be underestimated, and never to be counted out. Their armor was not just protection. Their scars were not just wounds. Every human carried a story of survival, endurance, and resilience, a story the galaxy would never forget. The council adjourned. The Kartek threat still loomed, but humanity had proven its worth. Lysara watched as Reeve and his squad returned to the city, calm and resolute, ready to face whatever came next. And in that quiet, scarred hall, a single lesson resonated through the galaxy. Humans endure. Humans survive. Humans protect. And when the universe doubts them, it will be reminded of the power hidden beneath the armor. The legend of Captain Daniel Reeve of the human race, and of the battle for Velthara had begun, a legend that would echo across the stars for generations to come.